Ananta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON BBD founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Stotra Saptashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Brahmacharya Srila Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Davandam ki jai.
Jai.
Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Yamunai ki jai.
Jai.
Gangamai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Glories
Krishna.
to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Hare Hare.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Prachayani Nivashesha Shantivadi Astagadi Shatarne. Bhagavatam 49. I've prepared.
No, I think
48.
Prabhu, it is 48 because yesterday we did not. We had
48
Prabhupada's
Okay.
lecture.
48.
Okay, thanks. I got
Sorry,
scared for a
Ramshan
second
Prabhu.
there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, The Creation. Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, text 48. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmatmanam swajik antaro nantaro bhati pashyatam mayayo rudha. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmatmanam swajik antaro nantaro bhati pashyatam mayayo rudha. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmatmanam swajik antaro nantaro bhati pashyatam mayayo rudha. Everyone chant, please.
Hare Krishna. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmanatman swadris. I will go ahead. Once again. Tad idam bhagavan rajan eka atmanam swadrik antaro nantaro bhati pasyatam maya yorudha. Hare Krishna.
Tad idam Bhagavan Rajan Eka Atmanatmanam Swadrik Ananto Anantaro Bhati Pasyatam Maya Yorudha.
Hare Krishna. Tat idam Bhagavan Rajan ek atma atmanam swadrik antaro anantaro bhati akshyatam maya yorudha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tadidam Bhagavan Rajanik Atmatmanam Swadruko anantaro nantaro bhati pashyatam mayayorudha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tad idam Bhagavan Rajan Eka Atmanam Swadrek Antaro Nantaro Bhati Pasyatam Mayaya Rudha.
Anyone else? Okay, word for word translation. Tat, therefore, idam, this manifestation, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Rajan, O king, Eka, one without a second, Atma, the supersoul, Atmanam, by his energies, Swadrik, qualitatively like him, Antara, without, Anantara, within and by himself, Bhati, so manifests, Pashya, look, Tam, unto him only, Mayaya, by manifestations of different energies, Urudha, appears to be many. Translation. Therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies and is both within and without. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is one without a second, but he manifests himself by different energies because he is by nature blissful. The living beings are also manifestations of his marginal energy, qualitatively one with the Lord, and there are innumerable living beings both within and without the external and internal energies of the Lord. Since the spiritual world is a manifestation of the Lord's internal energy, the living beings within that internal potency are qualitatively one with the Lord without contamination, without contamination from the external potency. Although qualitatively one with the Lord, the living being, due to contamination of the material world, is pervertedly manifested, and therefore he experiences so-called happiness and distress in the material world. Such experiences are all ephemeral, and do not affect the spirit soul. The perception of such ephemeral happiness and distress is due only to the forgetfulness of his qualities, which are equal to the Lord's. There is, however, a regular current from the Lord himself, from within and without, by which to rectify the fallen condition of the living being. From within, he corrects the desiring living being as localized Paramatma, and from without, he corrects by his manifestations, the spiritual master and the revealed scriptures. One should look unto the Lord. One should not be disturbed by the so-called manifestations of happiness or distress, but he should try to cooperate with the Lord in his outward activities for correcting the fallen souls. By his order only, one should become a spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord. One should not become a spiritual master for one's personal benefit, for some material gain, or as an avenue of business or occupation for earning livelihood. Bona fide spiritual masters who look unto the Supreme Lord to cooperate with him are actually qualitatively one with the Lord, and the forgetful ones are perverted reflections only. Yudhishthira Maharaj is advised by Narada, therefore, not to be disturbed by the affairs of so-called happiness and distress, but to look only unto the Lord to execute the mission for which the Lord has descended. That was his prime duty. Tadidam Bhagavan Rajan Eka Atmatmanam Swadrik Antaro Nantaro Bhati Pashyatam Mayayo Rudha. Therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies and is both within and without. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayani Nirvishesha Shanivati Pastudadi Satarine. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everybody, for kindly attending class. So Prabhupada starts the purport. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is one without a second. Prabhupada is here referencing the Vedic aphorism, Eka Brahma, Dvitiya Nasti. Eka Brahma. Brahman, spirit, the Supreme Spirit, especially Personality of Godhead, is one. Eka Brahma, Dvitiya. Dvitiya means number two, or the second. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, and Dvitiya, Nasti. There is no Dvitiya. There's no second. Different ways of understanding this. I've discussed this before, I think. It means that the only thing that exists is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his energies and expansions. And there's no other separate entity, or there's no other classification of being anywhere in creation. There's only Krishna and his energies. So Eka Brahma. There's one and there's no second. And one without a second also means that Krishna is so far superior, so much greater, so much more powerful, so much more unlimitedly full with all opulences. Aishwarasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yasasa Shriya. All of these opulences to such an extreme degree that there's no competitor. Everyone else is so far behind him that you can't even call it second place. They're not even in the race. So Krishna is one without a second. How is this one without a second? The verse says, Tad idam Bhagavan. Tad, Prabhupada is here translating as therefore. Therefore means that based on what was said before, now he's coming to a conclusion. So Narada Muni explained to Yudhishthira so many items of knowledge about the nature of Krishna, the nature of Jiva, and the nature of this material creation. And the conclusion, therefore, is that one should look only to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should look only towards Krishna. But Tad also means that thing, or Tad means that. So Tad idam Bhagavan also means that Tad idam, Prabhupada says idam is this manifestation. So everything we see, this whole creation, the whole universe, all the planets and people and energies and space and time and this and that and everything we can see and everything we can't see and everything we can imagine and everything we can't imagine, all of this Tad idam Bhagavan, all of this is nothing but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. I don't know if anyone remembers, some may remember not too long ago when we were hearing about, again, Narada Muni preaching, when he was preaching to his disciple Vyasadeva. And he told Vyasadeva, Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagatstana nirodha sambhava. That idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro. That this entire universal creation is nothing but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Eva and Itra, it's exactly one with him. This whole universe is nothing but him, but yet he has his own independent existence. So this universe is nothing but Krishna. Yato jagat stana nirodha sambhava. That the stana, the maintenance of the creation, nirodha, the annihilation of the creation, and sambhava, the creation, the creation of the creation. That's why it's called the creation, because it's created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of this is done by Krishna himself. And of course, this is the beginning of Vedanta Sutra. And this is the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can understand what an important point this is, that these great scriptures all lead off with this important point, that Janmadyasya Yataha, that Krishna is the source of the creation, the maintenance, and the dissolution of anything and everything that there is. So this understanding is what Narada Muni is trying to impress upon the mind of Yudhishthira, because this is how his illusion and how his lamentation will end. Yes, you understand the nature of the material world. You understand, just like yesterday's verse, I love yesterday's verse, the nature of this material world is that the weak are being devoured by the strong. This is the nature of the material world. So you understand that. You understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when you understand that it's all simply Krishna, it's Krishna and Krishna's energy, all of it, then where else are you going to look? The verse says, look only. Where is it? You should look to the Supreme Lord only. Not only you should look to the Supreme Lord only, but you can only look to the Supreme Lord because he is the sum total of existence. Everything you see is Krishna and Krishna's energy. Therefore, Krishna is Eka. Krishna is one, Eka Brahma. He's the one existence. And yet there's variety, there's activity, there's change and processes and different living beings and different forms of matter and different creations and so much variety going on. So how do we resolve this with Eka Brahma, with that there's only the one Supreme Personality of Godhead? That is resolved in the second line of Srila Prabhupada's purport. First line, again, he says, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is one without a second. Next line, but he manifests himself by different energies because he is by nature blissful. This is the answer. Krishna is one, but through his energies, everything is being accomplished. His internal spiritual energies, his marginal energies, which is me and you and we living entities, and the material energy. They're all Krishna's energies. What's the Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate? How does that start? Natasya Karyam Karanam Chavidyate. That the Supreme Personality has nothing to do. He has no duties, he has no work, he has no engagement that is forced upon him. Natat samaschab yadi kashya drishyate. And you'll never find a person more independent, more powerful, more superior to anyone else. Nachat tat samaschab yadi kashya. There's no one sama, there's no one equal to him, there's no one greater than him. But parasya shaktir vividaya vishruyate. But he possesses unlimited types and varieties and qualities of energy. Parasya shaktir vividaya vishruyate swabhaviki jnanabala kriyacha. And by his perfect knowledge and his perfect understanding and his perfect actions, through his energies, everything is being carried on very perfectly. So this is the resolution, that Krishna is one, but through his energies, he expresses multiplicity and variety. And with variety comes beauty and love and relationships. Because as Prabhupada also says, because he is by nature blissful. So Krishna is so blissful, full bliss cannot be experienced alone. Full bliss is experienced in relationship. So Krishna, he expands himself as we living entities so that he and we can experience that bliss, that love of relationship. So this is the understanding. Krishna is one, but through his energies, everything is being expanded, everything is being done. Everything is being carried out. He's Atmanam, mentioned in today's verse. Prabhupada gives an interesting translation. Atma is the soul. Prabhupada translates the super soul. So that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Atmanam, he translates as by his energies. By his energies in the sense that Atma means the self. So Atmanam is what is expanding from Krishna's self. That's his energies, his Maya, by which he's carrying everything out. And Atmatmanam also means that he's the soul of all souls. That every living entity, you and me, were existing as independent, tiny, spiritual by nature, but quantitatively very tiny as jivas, but we're not alone. We're with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is Atmatmanam, the soul of our soul. Let's again go back in the Srimad Bhagavatam to earlier classes months ago when we were studying chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. That chapter starts off with a discussion of the Purusha avatars, that there's Karanadakashai Vishnu, from whose body all of the universes are expanding. Janmadhyasya Yataha, it's all coming from Krishna, but he does it through his expansions. So Karanadakashai Vishnu is expanding all of the universes. And then within each individual universe, Krishna again manifests as Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And through him, through Brahma, under his direction, the whole universe is being created and developed, and the living entities are coming out and everything's going on. And then also within that universe, he's present as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, who is the super soul within the heart of all living beings. So Prabhupada explains that Karanadakashai Vishnu is the super soul of all the universes, of the entire creation, the entire material manifestation. And Garbhodakashai Vishnu is the super soul of each entire Brahmanda or individual universe. And Kshirodakashai Vishnu is the super soul of every living entity, and he's present in the heart of every single living entity, and within each atom of existence, and in the space between each atom of existence, and in the space between those spaces, and the space between those spaces ad infinitum. So therefore, Atmatmanam, Krishna is the soul of all souls. He's the supreme soul, super soul of everyone and of everything. Therefore, he is one. He's the one. So this is what Narada Muni is preaching, what he's teaching to Maharaj Yudhishthira. And as I pointed out, he's taught this same thing before, and in other places he'll teach it again. So what is it, in summary, what is it that Narada Muni is preaching here? He's teaching him Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan, Sambandha means relationship, and Gyan means knowledge. So Sambandha Gyan means understanding three things. Prabhupada said three things: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his energies, and the relationship between them. This is Sambandha Gyan. And when you understand Sambandha Gyan, then that knowledge, like any genuine knowledge, has consequences. It has repercussions. Knowledge that is just armchair knowledge or armchair speculation, whether material or spiritual, is of limited value. Real knowledge has consequences. And the consequence of genuine Sambandha Gyan is Abhideya. Abhideya means if you understand the nature of Krishna, even you understand just a little bit about the nature of Krishna, and you understand the nature of the living entity, meaning you understand your own nature and the nature of this material world in relation to Krishna, that Krishna is the Lord, the Master, the Creator, where his creation, his parts and parcels, and this material world is all his energy, then the logical consequence of that is that you're going to practice devotional service. This is the inescapable consequence of that knowledge. that it all belongs to Krishna. It's all meant for Krishna's pleasure. What's that we quoted last week in Bhagavad Gita? Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka mahesharam suridam sarvabhutanam. Krishna's the enjoyer, Krishna's the controller, and Krishna's the best friend and well-wisher. The inescapable conclusion of that is that you're going to engage in his service. You're going to offer everything to him. You're going to offer yourself to him. And the practices of devotional service, all the Navanga Bhakti, all the 9 limbs of devotional service, are that practice of offering to Krishna, serving Krishna. And that also has consequences. You do that, and when you do those practices, that abhideya, then your heart becomes purified. Prabhupada explains how all the living entities are spiritual by nature. What's that? Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakya Tatak Para. That Lord Vishnu has 3 broad categories of energy. Vishnu Shakti Para, he has his spiritual transcendental energy, by which he enacts all of his pastimes and all of his expansions, and he creates the spiritual world, and so much is going on. That's all his personal spiritual internal potency. And Kshetra Gyakya Tatak Para. Then there's the Kshetra Gya, the living entities, the individual jivas. Tatak Para, they're also transcendental. Our nature, as Prabhupada again says in the purport, let's see if I could quickly find it. The living beings within that internal potency are qualitatively one with the Lord without contamination from the external potency. So we're spiritual by nature, but because we're very tiny, we're tatashta, we're marginal. We can fall under the spell of the material energy, as I have, as those of us in the material world have. But our nature is spiritual. Where was I going with this? So anyway, oh, right, yes, Sambandha Gyan, yes. So Abhideya you practice, and because you're spiritual in nature, by the practice of Abhideya, by engagement in the process of devotional service, your heart becomes purified. The material dross, the material dirt is removed from your heart, removed from your consciousness. And then what shines forth at the end of that purification process? Your eternal loving relationship with Krishna, prayojana, sambandha, abhideya, prayojana. Prayojana means the goal of a practice, and the goal of our practice of devotional service, and the goal of everyone's existence as jiva soul is this: to love Krishna, prema pamartha mahan. So anyway, in this verse, for this reason, not Narada Muni is explaining this Sambandha Gyan. And now he says, therefore, O king, I've taught all this Sambandha Gyan, therefore, so what's the next step? You look to the Supreme Lord only. You surrender to Krishna only. This is the conclusion, therefore he's teaching this. So Krishna is everything. Everything is his energies. We should look only to Krishna. So looking only to Krishna means we are seeing Krishna. Prabhupada would sometimes address this challenge from the atheist, that the atheist says, show me God. And Prabhupada, he'd answer it in different ways at different times. Sometimes he would say, are you qualified? Are you qualified to see God? You demand to see God, but are you qualified to see God? Because Krishna does not necessarily reveal himself to anyone and everyone. Another point he would make is that with your blunt eyes, with these dull material senses, you're not even capable of seeing God. God is the Supreme Spirit, Eka Brahma. He's one and he's pure spirit. So with mundane eyes made of flesh and blood and corneas, the corneas and lenses and the vitreous humor and the ciliary muscles and all these things that go into eyes and the optic nerve and the brain cells that are reading the impulses from the nerve with those material things, what makes you think that you could possibly capture the purely spiritual, non-material, transcendental? That's what transcendental means. It means beyond matter, a form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But another response he would give is that, show me God, or can I see God? And Prabhupada would say, how can you not see God? Don't you see the sun in the sky? The sun and the moon are his eyes. Don't you drink water? That taste of water is Krishna. When you understand that everything is Krishna's energy, then how can you not see God? Where can you possibly look that you cannot see Krishna? There's no place you could turn your eyes. Even if you close your eyes, your eyelids are Krishna's energy. So no matter anywhere you look, anywhere you turn, you can't escape. Long ago in Boston, there was, this is a long time ago, there was one person who spent a little time in the temple, spent a little time in Krishna consciousness. Then he fell away and he became very degraded. And he used to call up the temple, complaining and screaming and complaining. He says, I can't forget Krishna. I'm trying to forget Krishna. I can't forget Krishna. I can't avoid Krishna. So this poor person, I don't know where he is now, but even you want to avoid Krishna, you can't. And even more, even if you think that you have successfully avoided Krishna, you're mistaken. Because everywhere you look, you're only seeing Krishna and Krishna's energies. And everything you do is seen by Krishna. And everywhere you go, Krishna is with you in your heart. You cannot escape him. And thank God we cannot escape him, because as Prabhupada also says in the purport, that this is beautiful how Prabhupada put this. He says, there is, however, a regular current from the Lord himself, from within and without, by which to rectify the fallen condition of the living being. We forget him. We think, oh, I'm not seeing Krishna. I'm seeing this object of sense enjoyment or that object of sense enjoyment. And we think we're not seeing Krishna, but Krishna is seeing us. From within a super soul, he's with us and he's arranging everything for our benefit. And from without, he sends his devotees to preach and enlighten, and the scriptures to preach and enlighten us, so we can get this Sambandha Gyan. And by this Sambandha Gyan, we can get the faith to actually engage in the process of devotional service. And we engage in the process of devotional service, and our heart becomes purified more and more until we actually start developing love of Krishna. So we cannot avoid Krishna. But we can also not force Krishna's appearance, or we cannot force Krishna's darshan. There's one instance in India, in Mayapur, and there was one Indian young man who was something of a scholar, who was, I don't know how serious his involvement in Krishna consciousness was, but he was visiting and he would talk with Prabhupada and engage with Prabhupada. He was an educated young Bengali man, scholar. And he actually was a poet, and he composed some prayers to Krishna. And he recited one of the verses he composed before Prabhupada. And the verse, the sense of it was, one of the lines was, "O Krishna, come appear before me dancing." And Prabhupada said, the Sanskrit is all right that you've composed, but we do not speak like that. We do not pray like that to Krishna. That Krishna, you come before me, like you're ordering Krishna, you appear before me dancing. You cannot do that. You cannot force Krishna's appearance. Krishna may make himself, what's that, Sikshastika? He can be visible before me, or he can make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. The classic example of that, of course, is the Rasa dance. Krishna personally called the gopis to leave their home, leave their children, leave their family, and come out to join him in the Rasa dance. And they were so happy. And they were actually thinking within themselves, we are the most fortunate women in the whole creation. And of course, these are the gopis. There's no question of any material contamination, but their mentality appeared somewhat like pride. like material pride. So therefore, to teach us a lesson, Krishna disappeared from their vision. So the gopis, they couldn't, Krishna personally called them, but when he wanted to disappear, he disappeared. There was nothing they could do about it, and they went mad in ecstasy from that disappearance, because it was not really to teach them a lesson, because they had no contamination. The real point was to drive their ecstasy to higher and higher levels till they became practically like mad persons. There's another instance of this. That instance was during the Rasa dance when Krishna was a young boy. That was at the Sharadiya Rasa Yatra, the fall Rasa dance, which the anniversary of was not very long ago. But then there's also a springtime Rasa dance. And one time in that springtime Rasa dance, the same thing happened. Krishna disappeared from the midst of all the gopis. And again, they went mad. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? And Krishna was hiding in a clump of bushes, watching their madness and their ecstasy, their unlimitedly increasing ecstasy and love of Krishna in separation. And he was relishing that. But then he was hiding behind the bushes, and the gopis saw someone behind the bushes. They saw a little movement behind the bushes. And I thought, oh, there's Krishna, there's Krishna. So they went running. So Krishna, in order to not reveal himself, at that time, he manifested himself in his four-armed Narayan form. And he stood there with the four arms, Shankha, Chakra, Padma, Gada, appearing just like Lord Narayan from Vaikuntha. And when the gopis all ran up and saw Lord Narayan, they were so disappointed. They were so just, oh, it's just Narayan. And they prayed, oh, my dear Lord Narayan, can you please tell us where Krishna is? Can you please direct us to Krishna? And they went away. Their love was so great. But then Radhika also went before this Lord Narayan. And Krishna, because of Radhika's love, he actually couldn't maintain his four-armed form, and he lost the two arms and appeared as Krishna. So this is the exception. I said we can't force Krishna to appear before us, but Radhika, she can do that. She can make Krishna, her love is so intense, and so there's no words I can say to express the superlative nature of Radhika's love. But this is what it does. It can force Krishna to appear. And we can't force Krishna to appear, but if we can develop a little faith, if we could develop a little practice of devotional service, if we can even develop some love for Krishna, we can't force Krishna's appearance, but we can attract him a little bit at least. That maybe he'll show us some mercy, maybe he'll show us some grace, and maybe he'll show us a little bit of himself in our lives and in the world around us. We can't demand it like Radhika forced his appearance, but we can attract him somewhat and hope for the best, hope for mercy from Krishna. That's a tatenu kampam susamakshamanar, that the devotee is always hoping, always waiting for Krishna's mercy on them. Tatenu kampam susamakshamanar bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. And if some karma comes, if some difficulty comes, if some punishment comes, you tolerate. I deserve it. I deserve worse than that. But it's Krishna's energy. This is also previous verses. It was described. Let me see if I could quickly find that about the gross. This is from text 46. The gross material body made of 5 elements is already under the control of eternal time, action, and the modes of material nature, kala, karma, and guna. So we accept, yes, my material body is under kala, karma, guna. Some punishments come, some difficulty will come. But I still go on waiting and hoping and expecting and praying for Krishna's mercy. Bunjane vatma kritam vipakam rid vag vapur bir viridan namaste. And you continue offering obeisances to Krishna. Rid, vag, vapu. With your heart, you're offering obeisances to Krishna. Vat, with your words, You're offering obeisances to Krishna. When you chant Hare Krishna, that's offering obeisances to Krishna with your words, with your tongue. You're submitting. Offering obeisances means submitting. And when we chant Hare Krishna, Prabhupada explained that that's praying, engage me in your service. That's an act of submission. That's nama, that's offering obeisances. And with your body, practically, you bow down when you go in the temple, you bow down flat on the ground. And it also means that all the engagements of your body are nama if they're engaged in devotional service. That whatever you're doing, you're walking to the temple, you're cleansing the temple, like Maharaj Ambarish. All his bodily activities are engaged in Krishna's service. That's Ridvagva Porbir, Vididan Namaste, Jiveta Yomukti Pade Sadayavak. And if you can do that, then attaining Krishna, you will definitely attain Krishna. You can't force Krishna's appearance. But this verse says that if you do this, if you go on praying and understanding and tolerating and offering obeisances to Krishna, then you will attain Krishna. You will see Krishna, just like the son will definitely get the inheritance of the father. It's expected, it's natural. We can predict the son will gain the inheritance of the father. He just has to remain as the son. He just has to remain alive as the son. And if we remain alive in devotional service, we can expect the same thing, that Krishna will reveal himself to us on his time, on his schedule, at his sweet will. But we can be assured that it will happen, that it'll come. This is also at the stage of Bhava Bhakti. This is called Ashabandha, hope against hope, that I can recognize how unqualified I am and how spotty at best my performance of devotional service and my remembrance of Krishna is. But at the same time, I can be hopeful that if I wholeheartedly take to the process, if I actually learn to chant constantly and chant constantly with devotion and serve constantly with devotion and do all this, that Krishna will reward. So this is the conclusion of Sambandha Gyan. When you understand Krishna's nature, as Narada Muni explained, then you will look only to Krishna, only to the Supreme Lord. And then when you do that, engage in devotional service, then your heart will be purified and you will actually see Krishna. And this is the vision. Let's see what time it is. This is the vision of the Mahabhagavat devotee. This is in the 11th canto. There's 3 very important verses describing the Kanishta Adhikari, the Madhyama Adhikari, and the Uttama Adhikari, the Mahabhagavat devotee, actually, more specifically. And that verse, Sarva Bhuteshu Ya Pashyed, Sarva Bhuteshu Ya Pashyed, Bhagavad Bhavamatmana, Bhutani Bhagavatyatman Yesha Bhagavatottama. So Sarva Bhuteshu Ya Pashyed, that the Mahabhagavat devotee, Sarva Bhuteshu Ya Pashyed, he sees all the manifestations and varieties and entities and energies. Excuse me. He sees all the varied entities of this world. Bhagavad Bhavam Atmana, Bhutani Bhagavat Atmanya. He sees them, but he doesn't exactly see them. What he sees is Krishna's energy, Krishna and Krishna's energy. So this is the defining quality of the Mahabhagavat, that he's, wherever he looks, he's seeing Krishna. And he sees him, Bhagavad Bhavam Atmana, Bhutani Bhagavat Atmani. Again, just like in today's verse, Atmatmanam, so also in this Bhagavatam verse, Atmana is mentioned twice, because Krishna is the soul of all souls. He's the center of all existence. Everything is just Krishna and Krishna's energies. And the most advanced devotee sees this and sees only this. And a little bit after that verse in the Bhagavatam, that actually after those three types of devotees, three levels of devotees are explained, then there's several verses, about a half a dozen verses in a row, specifically explaining the Mahabhagavat. And one of those lines from that verse is Vishnor Mayam Idam Pashyan. So this is more specifically saying that the original verse is Sarva Bhuteshu Ya Pashyed, that he sees all kinds of bhuta, all kinds of creations and entities and everything. But this verse says Vishnur Mayam Idam Pashyan. He sees that it's all Vishnu Maya. He sees that it's all the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Mahaprabhu himself also said when he was speaking to Ramananda Roy, and he was praising, glorifying Ramananda Roy, and he said of him that he's a Mahabhagavat devotee, and the nature of such a person, Stavara Jangama Deke, Na Deke Taramurti, Sarvachahaya Nija Ishta Deva Sporti. This is, even if you don't know Bengali, most of these words will be familiar to us, we can understand. Stavara Jangama Deki. Stavara means Stavara Jangama means not moving and moving. So all the moving and non-moving entities of this world, that you could take that to mean the living, moving and non-moving. Moving is spirit, and dull, not moving is matter. So everything in this world, matter and spirit, Deke, a great devotee, he sees them. He's seeing the moving and non-moving entities, but not Deki Taramurti. He's not really seeing the forms of these moving and non-moving entities. Sarvachahaya Nija Ishta Deva Sporti. So he's seeing the things of this world, but he's not seeing them. So what is he actually seeing? He's only seeing the manifestation of his worshipable deity anywhere and everywhere he looks. Bhagavad Gita also says, Yomam Pashyati Sarvacha, Sarvam Chayamayi Pashyati. Again, this word, we've heard this 4 or 5 times today in the original verse, and in explanation, this word Pashya means to see. Yomam Pashyati Sarvacha, Sarvam Chayamayi Pashyati, Tasyaham na pranashyami, Satchamena pranashyati. This is 630 from Bhagavad Gita. I also wanted to read the beginning of the purport to that verse. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So that's what Narada Muni is saying. Look only to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you see Krishna everywhere and see everything in Krishna, then you will always see Krishna, and Krishna will always see you. And what does Prabhupada say in the beginning of the purport? A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance, he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. In that purport, he's basically restating that verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Ramananda Roy, that the pure devotee, the purest devotee, he's seeing the world, but when he sees the world, he actually knows that he's seeing Krishna. Finally, there's one story. I've told this story multiple times, but I like it so much and it's so illustrative. I'll tell it again. That one time, I think it was a morning walk, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, what does it mean that the Mahabhagavat devotee sees Krishna everywhere? And there was a brick wall or a brick building nearby. And the devotee said, does it mean that the devotee looks and he sees Krishna in front of the brick wall, or Krishna standing on the brick wall, or he sees each individual brick, he sees a Krishna in each brick? And Prabhupada explained, and he said, no. He said, just like when the mother sees the shoe of her child, when she sees the shoe of her child, she's not seeing a shoe, she's seeing her child. That's how the devotee sees Krishna everywhere. And I love that explanation by Srila Prabhupada. And here's my explanation of that explanation. When the mother sees the shoe of the child, she sees her child. If some person on the street sees the shoe of the child, they're not going to see the child. So what's the difference? The difference is two things. The first thing is sambandha gyan, that the mother knows that this is the shoe of my child. So this is sambandha gyan, that you have the knowledge, oh, this shoe belongs to my child. But if you don't love the child, even if you see the shoe, and even if you know that the shoe belongs to the child, you won't see the child. But if you know that the shoe belongs to the child and you love the child, then when you see the shoe, you will see the child. So this is how Sambandha Gyan works. We have knowledge that everything we see is simply Krishna's energies. There's only Krishna and Krishna's energies. And we know that, and we look around and we can say, yes, that is all Krishna's energy. The sun and the moon are Krishna's eyes. So many things, like from the Bhagavatam, the mountains are the stacks of his bones, and this is like this, and we can understand Bhumir apanalo vayu kamano buddhir evacha, that earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are all Krishna's energies. We know that, but we still may not have that ecstasy of seeing Krishna everywhere because we have not yet developed sufficient love. But when we have that Sambandha Gyan, then we become inspired to engage in devotional service. And we engage in devotional service, and our heart becomes purified, and our anartas are gradually washed away by Krishna himself from within our heart. And then when love grows and awakens and sprouts within our heart, then when we look and we know this is Krishna's energy, and then when we have that love in the heart, then we'll actually see Krishna everywhere. This is the conclusion of you should look to the Supreme Lord only. This is only possible when you have the knowledge, you engage in the practice of devotional service, and you actually become purified sufficiently that your love awakens. And then you can actually look to the Supreme Lord only, and you cannot not look to the Supreme Lord only. Everywhere you turn, you will only see Krishna and Krishna's energies and Krishna's plan for us and Krishna's love for us everywhere we turn. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Is there any question or comment or discussion?
Thank you so very much, Prabhuji, for wonderful session in the morning. Very, very energetic. So, yeah, so if we have any question.
Thank you. It's not very often that I get called energetic. I'm usually the opposite, but thank you, Hare Krishna.
So you know, like you cannot accept your glorification by yourself. So we really, you know, appreciate for your wonderful session. It's really energetic. So if we have any comment, and you know, like, so please unmute yourself, or you know, like you can you know, raise your hand, whatever you use. Please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
very nice class. You know, one word in the purport is said, you know, by his order only one should become spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord. What can you please elaborate on this word? One should become a spiritual master for one personal benefit.
I'm not sure what exactly are you.
My question is just, you know, I say one should not become. Okay. He said, by his order only one should become a spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord. So how one becomes a spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord?
By becoming a serious and dedicated and advanced devotee, and actually following all the principles given by the Lord. If you're doing that, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you become a guru and you deliver the people of your land. So if you're a qualified person, a sincere devotee, a strict devotee, an experienced devotee, then you can assume that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order to you is to become a guru and deliver the people of your land. You have to, as you said, as this verse says, one of the most important items is your motivation. Your motivation should be serving the Lord and serving the devotees and serving the conditioned souls. If you're doing it out of some pride, out of some position, I'll get a guru and people will bow down to me, people will give me money, people will give me respect, then that's a sign that one is not qualified. But if you can avoid those pitfalls, then you're qualified and you should take that order of the Lord on your head and become a guru. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhu, very nice. Thank you.
And that guru may mean Siksha Guru, may mean Diksha Guru, according to time and circumstance, but become a guru. That's what Prabhupada wanted, all of his disciples. Just like when Prabhupada was instituting, just like now we're fortunate here in Philly to have some devotees who are becoming Bhakti Shastri. So Prabhupada wanted that the devotees become Bhakti Shastri. What were the other levels? Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Sarvabhauma were some of the levels. And he said and Bhakti Vedanta. And he said, I want all my disciples to become Bhakti Vedanta and become guru. So this is Prabhupada's instruction, specific literal instruction, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, become a guru, and the implicit instruction of Krishna himself, that you become a qualified devotee and you preach about it to others, and that's becoming a guru. Anything else, question or comment?
Yes, Prabhu, you were talking about the mother and the shoe of the child. Some similar discussion was happening on Friday, on Prabhupada's disappearance day. And I was thinking that can also be used as a measure to see how much faith we have, how much devotion we have. So the discussion was some cooking instructions that Prabhupada had given, and slowly it manifested into what Prabhupada's likes and dislikes were, or what he had instructed, you can eat this, or, So one devotee said, so does that mean if Prabhupada doesn't like broccoli, I should also not like broccoli if he doesn't use? And I think we got a little caught up in that discussion. And then I think the point there is, if we love somebody, we don't need, we automatically do what they like. If my children like something, it's not a sacrifice for me to make things the way they like it. If Prabhupada did not like broccoli, I probably, if I truly, truly loved him and wanted to please him, I would not make broccoli for him. It's not that he would not have eaten it, but so I was just wondering if that was one way to see where we stand.
Yeah, I would agree with that in a qualified way, in the sense that, let's take the example of broccoli. That if Prabhupada doesn't like broccoli, if we had evidence, Prabhupada said, I don't like broccoli, broccoli's nasty or whatever, then certainly at a Vyasa Puja feast, I would not cook broccoli. But for day-to-day offering, Prabhupada also said, you cook according to your taste. He also said that many times. He even said, cook according to your country style or according to your taste. There's no harm. Just like Prabhupada liked, the other side is Prabhupada liked some things that some devotees may not like. Prabhupada liked chili pakora. Not every Westerners who can't or won't eat chili pakora. That's not the most important thing. But like I said, at least for a Vyasa Puja, I want to keep that in mind. But there are, aside from very specific things like with this vegetable or that vegetable, there are things in ISKCON that Prabhupada liked a certain way. He liked kirtan a certain way. He liked class a certain way. Not that we mimic his style, but there are certain things that he liked. He liked the kirtan to be almost all Mahamantra. He wasn't in favor of chanting, this mantra and jai this and jai that and so many other things. And we could do kirtan in our own way, but we should remember what Prabhupada liked and what Prabhupada instituted and how Prabhupada did it. So that takes a little sensitivity. You don't want to go on a crusade, ban broccoli and ISKCON. But we want to remember Prabhupada's tastes and Prabhupada's style and most important, of course, Prabhupada's instructions. So there's just some points to remember about that. But yes, thank you for that, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think like Charles Chandra Prabhu says, principle over ritual, but something to that effect, right? You understand what is being said instead of, but we got a little carried away and we wanted a black and white answer. So should we not eat broccoli? And like you were saying, keep in mind and understand where whatever is coming from and not just.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that, and that's what I'm trying to say, is when I am limited in my understanding, I need that black and white answer. So that is also a sign for me to see where I am in this process.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
We have a hand raised from Sudevi Mataji. Sudevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Sudevi, that name's familiar. Have I met you before?
Never. Okay, so the question is, you talk about that, you told a story about the mother and the shoe and seeing Krishna everywhere. So now, then you also said afterwards that if someone is not the mother and sees the same shoe, but nothing will happen because they don't have the love.
Right.
So then you're talking about seeing Krishna and everything, but only if you have the love for Krishna, right?
Right.
So how do I know if I have any love for Krishna? Because I'm not seeing anything like that. Everything that I'm seeing is not Krishna.
Yeah, so we have to be realistic, and we know that the goal, at least we know that the goal, Prema Pumartha Mahan, is to love Krishna and see Krishna everywhere. But therefore I said that at least, just as Narada Muni has been doing in this chapter, we start with Sambandha Gyan, that we understand that yes, this is the child's shoe. And maybe I don't have love for the child yet, but we know that the goal is to love Krishna. We don't have love for Krishna yet. So at least if we know that everything belongs to Krishna, then as we develop affection for Krishna more and more, then the realization that everything around us is Krishna and Krishna's energies will come. So at least we start with this theoretical knowledge, which will keep us heading in the right direction. And someday we'll develop, however long it takes, we'll develop a little love. And when that little bit of love comes, then we'll see a little bit. Oh yes, this is Krishna. This is Krishna's energy. And you'll see that little bit. And when you see that little bit, little hint that, oh, this is Krishna I'm seeing, this is Krishna's energy, then when you do that, your faith and your knowledge will grow. And as your faith and knowledge will grow, then you'll become purified more. And then your love will grow a little more. And you'll see Krishna more. And your faith and knowledge will grow more. And your love will grow more. And hopefully, the hope is that we'll develop this kind of sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like a cascading effect, that our knowledge and our practice and our love will start growing and increasing more and more, feeding off of each other. This is the hope. And it may take, who knows how long it could take. It may take years, it may take lifetimes, but at least we know that we're on the path and we have at least a theoretical view of what the goal is. And to the best of our, meager ability, we're working towards it. But yes, we don't see it now. I look at the world around me and I don't see Krishna. But I know that Krishna is there, that's his energy, and I'm working towards it, and I'm trying to do a little devotional service. And someday I'll have the love and I'll actually be able to see Krishna at least a little bit. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, I don't know if I can remember correctly, but a friend saw some quote, maybe some Christian quote somewhere, and she was talking about it, telling that you, how did this? You don't, no, love is not the people you live with. Love is the people you cannot live with. It's like if you cannot live with someone, that's love. So she was explaining in her own way. So if you have some attraction to something, or she was talking about herself or some of the devotional service that she's attraction for, that she just can't do without it. She has to do. So she took it as a little hint, a little bit of love that I have is growing from that I have to do this. I must go to a temple. I have to do this service. So she took it. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
yeah, no, it is. That's nice. That love at an earlier stage, at a stage of sadhana bhakti, the beginning of love is that, yes, I have to do this and I want to do this. Just like Prabhupada said in the Nectar Devotion, he says in the beginning, this is such a hard example for me because me and Mangalartik, our paths do not intersect very often. But Prabhupada said, the injunction of the spiritual master is that you get up early and you go to the temple and you do Mangalartik. And in the beginning, you do this because the spiritual master has ordered that you do this. But then after some time, you get a taste and you want to see the deity and decorate the deity in different ways. And he said, this is spontaneous devotional service. So this is a kind of spontaneous devotional service that is available even in the beginning. And that sort of thing, that sort of having that attachment to an active devotional service that you have to do it and even you want to do it, this is a great thing, a precious thing, a real impetus that can help us advance in devotional service. Hare Krishna. Yes, anyone else?
Yeah, we see a hand raise from Sonia Mataji. So please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
I know
Krishna.
right now the time is already 9 o'clock. So is it okay? Can I ask you a question? Real short?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have a question. Like when we start, like I'm very in initial stages of it, and when constantly we contemplate on Krishna, and the constant thoughts are coming about the Krishna all the time, and in that we develop some expectations from others while we are doing this, and for some reason, if that expectations are not coming to our like what we are expecting, then how do we really like, because we got our intent is pure and we want others to get it, but that expectations are building up too much at the same time at a rapid pace, and we are not seeing way we want to see them as supposed to. So in that situation, how do we, what should I should do for my own self to not do that?
Yes,
Hare
that's a good question and a very interesting point. And I think many of us may have experienced that you come to devotional service in the very beginning and you think, this is awesome, this is amazing. Probably I'll be a pure devotee within a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. I'll be a pure devotee. And you think like that because it's so new and exciting. And in the space of, like, I remember even like my very first day moving in the temple. And just that difference from being out of the temple and in the temple, you think, oh my God, this is like the spiritual world. And Krishna's just like right there. And you're expecting so much and thinking so much. And then you think, okay, some weeks go by, some months go by, some decades go by, and you're still you're advancing. Hopefully you're still in the process and hopefully still advancing, but you start realizing that it's actually a long haul. And this is hard. We have to be realistic. This is just, I can't remember so much about it, but it's described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini, that there's a situation called Utsaha Mayi. Utsaha Mayi means full of enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is necessary for devotional service. But in this context, he's talking about Utsaha Mayi as not an anartha, but as a source of unsteadiness in devotional service. That Utsaha Mayi means you come to devotional service and you're so enthusiastic. And like I said, you think, oh, I'm going to be a pure devotee in a week. And then you're not. And then you're enthusiastic. And then if you're weak, or if your knowledge isn't good, or your faith isn't strong, then you think after a few weeks go by, oh, I'm not a pure devotee yet, give it up. So there's a kind of immature enthusiasm, but steady enthusiasm. Therefore, what's the verse about enthusiasm from Upadeshamrita?
Utsahan nischaya dharyat.
Yes. So that first line, Utsaha nischaya dharyat, Utsaha, but also nischaya dharyat, that you're patient, and Utsaha nischaya, that you're fixed, that not you're enthusiastic, but then when you don't get the goal, your enthusiasm drains away. That's the immature enthusiasm. Mature enthusiasm and Utsaha nischaya dharyat, that you're fixed, even if you don't get the result right away. Just like I was discussing earlier in this class, this idea of ashabandha, that hope against hope, that maybe you've been performing devotional service and you're not seeing Krishna. You're not a pure devotee. You don't have a love of Krishna, but you go on hoping and expecting it. This is ashabandha, hope against hope. So it takes a little maturity. It takes even a little common sense, that if you're going to be a neurosurgeon and you go to college, and your first day in college, you learn, okay, this is the brain and this is a neuron. And you think, oh, I know so much. Yesterday, I didn't know anything about the brain. Now I know so much about the brain, so I'll be a neurosurgeon by next week. So it's the same thing materially, that you get this immature enthusiasm and then realize, oh, then you start thinking, actually, it said that sometimes the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. So you advance a little and you see, wow, actually, I'm much further away from Krishna than I thought. But because the goal is still desirable, you stick with it, and you gradually, step by step, just like the student, he learns more and more, 4 years of college, and then med school, and then an internship, and then specialization, all of this thing. So similarly in spiritual life, we have to be a little mature. We have to be a little common sense. We have to be a little introspective and realistic about ourselves and our position. But at the same time, we have to if we cultivate sambandha gyan, if we cultivate actual knowledge of Krishna and knowledge of our relationship with Krishna, then even if we don't have that initial puppy dog enthusiasm, then we could still have that solid enthusiasm based on our knowledge of Krishna that will progress us forward. But that's a very real thing that you're describing, that initial enthusiasm, which sometimes can fade away. So we need a more mature, a more solid and steady enthusiasm. Is that okay? Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you very much. It helped me.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Any announcements? Continuing Damodar Ashtakam tonight at Sunday Feast, I know. There's more announcements. Drona, do you have anything to?
Yeah, Prabhuji, there is some
Oh, Drona,
announcement.
he was here earlier. He's not anymore. Okay.
Yeah, before that, I had some clarification. If you can shortly, can I ask that question related?
It's late, but quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's a big quick. So yesterday when we had like Prabhupada disappearance celebration, so somebody advised if we can, push that instead of weekdays to the weekend. So can it be like that? Means somebody advised, but per my opinion, I cannot, being insignificant, I can give my advice. So I did not feel good, like that we should have in the weekend, So I would like to, seek your.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that exactly. I also like to see the festival celebrated on the day of the festival, but that's a management question. And there's also value in making it on a convenient day so that more people can attend. That's also a valuable point to consider, but that's more a management question. So I won't really say more than that about that. Sorry if that's not satisfying.
No problem, bro. Just and Prabhu, like we had the discussion. We were talking about eating broccoli and this. So I was just wondering, kind of it's kind of debatable question. Like I'm completely agree what Suvaradha Mataji was saying. We should be preparing the feast or the prasad, which is favorite for that the senior devotee or to that guru or to Prabhupada, if Prabhupada offering it is. So in other way, if we see like if the devotee is devotee is preparing by his love, and it may not be favorite for that guru or to the senior devotee or whosoever, and he preparing by love. So can it be not? Will it be not good? Like why I'm saying like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, if we see like accepted as a chariot role for Arjuna. Also, Krishna broke his vow for that sake of Bhishma promise, So depending upon the devotee desire also, sometimes, like Guru also accept whatever devotee wants. So is that not both way kind of, or it is one way only?
Yeah, no, both points are valid. Both points are valid, and a little, in most cases at least, a little intelligence, a little consideration will direct what's best to do in different circumstances. Like I said, you may have a different standard in cooking for your day-to-day cooking than you would for a festival, or if you're cooking for yourself versus cooking for a guest. So both points are valid, and we just have to figure things out the best we can. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah.
It's kind of late now, I think. I think it's
got it. So quickly regarding announcement, Dona Prabhu has given me a list. So as usual, we have Sunday feast program 4:30, and then Damodar Ashtakam will be starting by 6:15, and we have the Bhagavad Gita series reading. That will be chapter 6. That's all about the announcement. We can end the session.
Yeah, and also tomorrow for Halloween, there's going to be a Halloween Harinam I saw in the email. So I'm sure there'll be news about that tonight, what time it is and how to join that. A local Harinam for Halloween tomorrow. That sounds like fun. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attendance and your kind attention. Everyone have a nice day. Hare Krishna.